Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need any help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, small group coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, I want to talk about why you should remain unmoved by appearances, as Florence Scovel-Shinn put it, and how you can do it. In other words, why you should not be triggered by circumstances and how you can achieve that. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So for today's video, I've been inspired by Florence Scovel-Shinn's famous quote. This is part of the quote, but what she said in that was, "I am unmoved by appearances, therefore appearances move." What she was saying in this quote was essentially another way of saying circumstances don't matter. And she was also saying that when you remain unmoved by the circumstances, untriggered by the circumstances, indifferent to the circumstances, then the circumstances change. The circumstances move, the circumstances shift. So the reason why you want to remain unmoved by circumstances, untriggered by circumstances, and you want to remain as indifferent to them as possible is because right now, as a conscious manifestor, you're no longer your old self. You're no longer defined by your old self-concept. You're no longer dwelling in your old story. You're no longer identified with that old story. And so whatever circumstances you might be faced with that reflect that old story, that reflect that old reality that you used to identify with, are now irrelevant to this new person that you are. It is true that there can be some delay in the 3D until the 3D starts reflecting your new story and actually showing it consistently. So it is true that while you're creating your new story, while you're manifesting your new story, you might be seeing bits and pieces of the old story still playing out. That is because the old story is probably still quite prominent in your mind and in your consciousness. But you want to start responding to these circumstances, to these appearances, to what comes up in the 3D as the new version of yourself. You want to be aware of your reactions, you want to be aware of your triggers, and you want to always ask yourself, how would this new person that I'm now embodying react to these circumstances? How would they respond to them? What would they think about them? How would they feel about them? What would they assume? What would they believe? Chances are, if you're genuinely honest with yourself, you are going to find that the new version that you're embodying, the new person that you're creating yourself to be, has nothing to do with that old version of yourself and how that old version responded to circumstances and to triggers and to things that came up. And so you always want to be mindful of how that new version of yourself would actually respond to these circumstances and to these appearances and what's happening in your 3D world, your 3D reality. Of course, I know and I understand we're also human. We do get triggered. We are conditioned to be looking at the 3D. We all get caught up in the 3D at times. We all fall into the trap of believing the 3D at times and believing it as true and as the one and only reality. I get that. We all fall into that trap. But we also want to be very aware of that very important lesson in that Florence quote, that when we remain unmoved by appearances, when we remain unmoved by circumstances, in other words, when we remain indifferent to them, these circumstances, these appearances do move and they do change. Because the world is always a mirror of who we are within, and that is always, 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 no exceptions, what it reflects back to us. Now, of course, you may be asking, okay, so how do I do that? Because obviously, when something matters to me, when something is important to me, if something that I deem as opposite, if something that I deem as unfavorable presents itself to me and comes up in my reality, I'm going to be triggered. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be discouraged. I'm going to react in some way or another. So how can I actually remain unmoved by that appearance, by that circumstance, and know that it is going to change? What I advise you to do in such a case is to actually take a couple steps back, try to get yourself a little less emotionally involved, a little less emotionally attached to the situation, and start seeing it from a more, if you will, scientific perspective. And what do I mean by that? You want to calm yourself down to the best of your abilities. You want to disengage a little bit emotionally from this whole drama of whatever is happening, whatever the circumstances are presenting right now. And you want to do some reverse engineering between what the 3D is showing, what the 3D is presenting, what these appearances appear to be, and what has been your dominant state, your dominant assumption, your dominant energy in the immediate or recent past. So in other words, you want to take the emotion out of the situation as much as you can to the best of your ability. Obviously, I know we're human. And you want to look at things from the point of view of an observer. So you want to observe what within you, what thoughts, what energy, what state, what assumptions, what beliefs, what fears that might have popped up have actually brought about this circumstance that you're now being faced with. And like I just said, it might be something in the present, it might be something in the immediate past, it can be something in the little more distant past, but most usually the recent past. And you want to observe the association and the connection between who you were being inside, what you were assuming, what you were thinking, what you were believing, what your energy was, what your dominant state was, and what played out for you in your reality. And making that connection with as little emotion as possible is going to help you stay unmoved by that circumstance, by those appearances. Because now you realize that all that the 3D showed, all that the 3D reflected, was just what was going on within you, what was the dominant state within you at the time. And the reason that helps you stay unmoved by those circumstances and by those appearances is precisely because now you know that you are creating your circumstances. The circumstances have only reflected your own dominant state. So this is great news because that means the circumstances can change. As you change your state, as you change your dominant inner energy, as you change who you dominantly are being within, what you're identifying with and who you're identifying as, the circumstances are going to change. They are going to shift, and the less triggered you are by them, the faster it's going to come. So you want to take more of a scientific approach to your circumstances, more of an observer approach to your circumstances, remove the emotions as much as you can, remove the trigger as much as you can, and just see the circumstances for what they are. And they are nothing more than a reflection of your own inner dominant states. So by doing that, understanding that, and realizing that, you will also understand and realize that you're in charge of your circumstances. You're in charge of your state. And so when your state shifts, when your state aligns with the new person that you want to be, with the new version of reality and the new version of the story that you're creating, and as you remain indifferent to those circumstances because you know they're just a reflection of yourself, and so you know they are going to change, the circumstances, the appearances do change for real. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.